Hey, rock stars. So today I wanted to talk about instruction manuals. like, operation manuals, blueprints, specs. We get one with just about everything these days, don't we? Like, from the smallest thing you buy, even on the back, if there's no actual little booklet, a manual that comes with it, there's instructions on how to use it. The simplest of things, isn't there? You buy tea bags, there'll be instructions on how to use a tea bag. Anyway, what am I getting at? That everything that we get these days comes with a how to use this. And also, a lot of the things that we buy from an electronic perspective, or actually even, games and things like that, a lot of them have a factory setting as well, don't they? When you unbox something, how it is when you first unbox it is pretty much the same. If you went and bought that same exact product, it would look the same when you unboxed it, right? So it has a factory setting. And you learn from the manual, don't you? How to use it, what to do if something goes wrong, how to program it if that's the case. And most of the time, we actually put in effort. We want to learn how to use the thing, or how to control it, or how to operate it, or how to work with it, how to use it so that it best suits our needs or gets us the outcome we want. I got a coffee plunger the other day. And in my mind, I'm sort of thinking, well, there can't be much to this. Like, surely I don't need to read the instruction manual. I did. Anyway, I did. Because I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do it the way the manual says the first time and see how it comes out. So we still want to know, well, what's the best use? How can I best utilize this item that I've just bought to better or fix or, whatever the purpose is, right? You want to get it right so that it has the outcome that you want. And it got me thinking about us as humans. You've been given this, flesh sack. However, you've got a brain, you've got a heart, you've got this gorgeous being full of all these intricate designs and systems to keep you alive and to help you live a life, create something out of your life. And you may think that it doesn't come with an instruction manual, that you didn't come with an instruction manual. And that's how we feel a lot of the time, isn't it? We're like, shit, man, I'm just trying to work stuff out as I go along. And yet think about as well, don't we do that sometimes even when we purchase a product? We think, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna feel my way through this. Like, how many people do you know, or you yourself, you buy a flat pack piece of furniture and you look at the instructions for a second and then you think, I don't need that. Clearly this goes with this and this goes with that, and I'm just going to do this. So a lot of the time, I think we do actually rely on our instincts, our intuition, our intelligence. We just think, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with the flow and see what happens. So we do that quite a bit with ourselves. Though, how much of it is because we think there is no manual to us. There is no blueprint. There is no specs to us. Here's where I want to challenge you and stretch you a little bit and talk about programming. Because I believe we do have an instruction manual. We do have an operation manual for us. And we come out of the box, the womb, let's call it the box, with these factory settings. And I'm not saying that we all have the same setting either, by the way. It's just simply a metaphor to say that, I do believe that on some level we are a bit of a blank slate. I think we do have generational stuff that's passed down through us. And from the minute that we are conceived in the womb, I also believe that we are picking up, things through the womb as well. So the programming has already started, hasn't it? And I've talked about before on other episodes, and in my Facebook group, I've talked about emotional templates. How we build these templates and these strategies to get the outcome we want. And so that's all part of us putting the effort in to learn how to program ourselves, how to avoid pitfalls and get the outcome we want, or how to avoid an outcome we don't want. So we're learning these things, and we learn so much of it between the ages of 0 and 7. That's where we're really honing our instruction manual, our specs. We're getting our programming in place. Now, here's the thing about this as well. Some of the things we learn simply by watching others, don't we? I asked a friend yesterday, I said, how did you learn to make a cup of tea? She said, I just watching my grandparents, watching my parents. So you didn't actually have to read a manual to make a cup of tea. You watched others and you copied, you modeled, yeah? Now, that's well and good. However, at some point, some of us perhaps didn't like the way that our grandparents made their tea. And so we adjust depending on our likes, our wants, our needs, the environment, all those things. I know my grandma was a huge believer in tea should only be made in a teapot with loose leaf tea, and you drink it from a teacup, and that's the law. These days, yes, I still do love a cup of tea out of a teapot. However, it's also really convenient to use a tea bag and a mug sometimes, isn't it? So, and she never had sugar. She had honey. I'll whack sugar in every now and then. I'll have soy milk, or, we adjust is what I'm getting at. We change things from the way we've learned it. We adjust and we change it to suit our needs. So when you look at behaviors that we might have as an adult that are limiting us, that are not getting us what we want or what we think we want, and we keep repeating these behaviors and patterns and things like that, we get stuck in our head that we can't change. Say, but I've always done it that way, or I've always been like that, or it's just who I am. Have you heard some of those phrases before? I've used some of those phrases before. And I'm here to tell you that the programming was accepted by you when you were younger, because obviously when we're really young, there isn't as much choice in our life, is there? We have to relatively quickly work out our specs, work out our programming, get the blueprint under control, figure out who we are, where we're going, what we're capable of. We've got a lot of parameters to figure out relatively quickly when we're young. And yet the cup of tea metaphor that I used, story that I used, shows you that we're capable of change. It's simply about becoming aware first of what you don't like. And this takes a lot of, soul searching. It's difficult to look at ourselves lovingly, yet with a critical eye. So often when we look at ourselves through the critical lens, I suppose, we're just ragging on ourselves. I'm useless at this. I'm hopeless at that. I'm bad at this. I'm crappy at relationships. And we just use all these sort of negative phrases and words to bash ourselves over the head and strengthen the belief that it's just who we are. We can't change it because I've always been like that. Just like the cup of tea, you can change it when you focus on what it is you actually want instead. So if you've got a behavior that's not expanding you, that a behavior that's limiting you, or a behavior that you really don't like about yourself, you want it to be different. Here's the thing, you can be different. Be aware of the behavior first. Ask yourself, what's the purpose of that behavior? What's the reason? What's my end game? Where did it come from? Where did it start? If you consider yourself to be let's think of an example, a negative, so to speak, example. I rush into things too quickly. Let's use that as an example. I don't think things through. I just rush in. And so you can see from my tone of voice that it's being labelled as a negative thing. And I can't change it. I've just always been like that. I don't know what my problem is. Does that all sound familiar? Have you heard that in yourself or someone else? So using that example, if that was my problem, the label I put on myself, I could be asking myself, okay, well, hang on. If that is a negative label that I'm putting on myself and limiting myself and lowering the bar and disempowering myself with this label, how would I want it to be instead? How do I want it to be? How do I want to be? So now I start to focus on, well, what do I actually want? Instead of focusing on this negative label of what I don't want and yet believe I can't change, look at what I do want. Let's start there. And then I can start asking myself, well, when did I decide that I was too quick to rush into things? When did I first decide that? And you start to get this deeper level of awareness of your programming. Because at some point, that decision was made to have that behavior as part of a strategy. It was programmed in as a strategy to survive in a certain environment, in a certain event. It might have been one standalone event. And that's the strategy that was put into play. That's how you survived. So it became part of the programming. And then as you move through life and keep going, every time you rushed into something, you built it into that belief system and into that programming that, oh, well, that's just who I am. Instead of stepping back and realizing, wow, I can change the programming. I can recode my programming anytime I want to get whatever outcome I want. That's where true personal power comes from. So that's what I, had been thinking about and wanted to share with you all today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. As I said, it sort of goes hand in hand with another thing I was talking about, which is those emotional templates. Those templates that, again, it's about programming, isn't it? We program a certain template so that we know what a certain emotion feels like to us. Because everything only has the meaning we give it, right? What I consider, say, threatening could be entirely different to what someone else considers it. What I consider sad can mean something else to someone else. And a good example of this is in the work that I do, the first emotion that we sort of get into the programming and the template of is anger. And I've come across clients who say, oh, I don't actually feel anger. I dealt with all that, so I don't even get angry. I never get angry. And I'm like, cool, okay, brilliant. And then as we get talking about things, the problems that have brought them to me in the first place, or, what's causing them trouble in their life, you start to hear other language. And it can be things like, I just get so frustrated with myself. Now, frustration can be a flavour, a shade, if you like, of anger. Have you ever been frustrated in traffic? You're just like, oh, come on, this is taking so long. It's a shade. It's on the spectrum of anger comes frustration. And yet, because of the way that we're programmed, because of our templates, anger can mean something entirely different to one person. They've filed it away in a certain place in their brain. And so they don't associate their frustration with any kind of anger. And this is all part of that programming, all part of your personal neurology code. So if you want to really help other people, if you really want to make a sort of your own ripple effect in helping other people, you first honestly have to learn your own code, your own programming, and take control of that and empower yourself to be able to reprogram and recode to get the outcomes that you want. And Carl Jung was a big believer in that as well. So there's it's not just me reinventing the wheel here. It goes back quite a ways. I won't keep waffling on. I trust this was interesting and you got something out of it. I trust that you did. And I'd love to hear your feedback. Please reach out to me. Easiest way is probably via Facebook. Look for the Talk Train Co. Facebook group. Or you can find me on Facebook. I've got a public profile, Alison Burnett. Otherwise, I'll catch you next episode. Take care.